Revealed, Black Housekeeper's inspiring cry saves millionaire Arab from life-changing tragedy. Janet stood in the grand foyer of the Al Hassan mansion, her heart racing as she meticulously dusted the silk curtains. The sunlight poured through the tall windows, casting a warm glow on the lavish decor: crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and gilded frames. To the world, she was just a housekeeper, but for 32-year-old Janet, this mansion was both a privilege and a prison. Each day felt like a battle, her only refuge the love she poured into raising Mia, her brilliant daughter, whose dreams sparkled brighter than the chandeliers above. As she worked, Janet's thoughts drifted to Mia. The little girl wanted to go to college, to escape the limitations of their cramped Chicago apartment. "Mommy, I want to be a doctor," Mia would proclaim, her eyes bursting with hope. Janet's chest tightened at the thought. She would do anything for Mia. A fierce desire burned within her to give her daughter a chance at a life unclouded by struggle. Samir Al Hassan, the mansion's owner, was a man trapped by expectations. A wealthy Arab businessman, he wore the weight of his family's legacy like an albatross. Often, he lingered unseen, burdened by whispers of scandal. He would retreat to the shadows, a storm brewing inside him, just as the reputation of his family teetered on the brink. One fateful afternoon, news erupted like wildfire. A financial scandal had erupted, threatening the very foundation of Samir's empire. As accusations swirled, Janet's heart raced, not for the riches at stake, but for the man hidden beneath the gilded surface. She could see the shadows of despair in his eyes. They were both clinging to hopes in a world that threatened to tear them apart. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Janet's thoughts churned, every injustice illuminating that stark divide. She couldn't stay silent any longer. Just as Samir trudged through the hallway, his head low, a surge of bravery washed over her. "Mr. Al Hassan," she called out, her voice echoing in the expansive chamber. He turned, surprise flickering across his features. "I know what everyone is saying about you," she spoke, her heart racing. "But when the world judges you by your wealth, remember, you are more than that. Look around. A reputation won't feed your family like character will." Samir's expression transformed. Vulnerability broke through his hardened exterior, and a raw connection formed in that moment. They stood on the precipice of change, both grappling with burdens they didn't know they shared. "Will you help me?" he whispered, and Janet felt the weight of his plea. Her soul recognized the strength and empathy, igniting hope amidst the storm. An unknown witness, lurking in the shadows, caught their exchange, eyes widening. Would their budding alliance withstand the scrutiny of the outside world? Would it fracture under unwelcome judgment? As each heartbeat echoed in the silence, Janet sensed the fragile thread of connection between them, their lives forever intertwined as they bravely faced the impending chaos. The atmosphere in the mansion shifted after that moment. It felt electric. Janet's words lingered in the air, a blend of courage and vulnerability hovering like an uninvited guest. Samir stayed silent for a heartbeat too long, but when he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't even know where to begin." Janet felt a spark of determination ignite within her. "Start by telling me the truth. The real story behind this scandal." Her heart pounded, both nervous and resolute. In that moment, the mansion felt more like a confessional than the opulent prison she had known for years. Samir met her gaze, searching for something. "Trust, perhaps? It's all rumors, but they're taking a life of their own. My family's company is under attack, and I'm stuck spinning in their web." He looked away, mouth a taut line. "I've held everything together, thought I could control it, but But you can't do it alone, Janet injected gently, grounding their conversation. She could feel her own pulse racing, her emotions tangled up inside her. There was so much at stake, not just for Samir, but for Mia's future too. Help comes with a cost, Samir replied, his voice like gravel. If I expose myself, I might lose everything. I can't risk my family. And if I'm tarnished? I would never ask you to ruin yourself, Janet interjected, a fierce protectiveness enveloping her words. But I know how to navigate these waters. We can turn the tables if we work together. Samir's eyes widened, and for the first time, some of the weight in his expression lightened. There was a flicker of hope amidst the shadows. You really believe we can? Absolutely, she said, her voice strong. People will listen to you. But they will also admire your vulnerability. You don't have to hide. At that moment, a noise interrupted the silence. Eloise, the other housekeeper and Janet's confidant, shuffled into view, carrying a stack of laundry. She caught the tail end of their conversation and gasped. What are you two whispering about? Janet's heart sank. Eloise, please. This is private. But Samir spoke up, his voice gaining strength. No, it's all right. My life is an open book at this point, isn't it? Eloise's presence shifted the dynamic. Are you sure, Mr. Alhassan? What if I'm tired of hiding, he replied, an almost fierce determination rising within him. I want to fight this. I need to fight. As they outlined a plan, Janet felt the threads of their lives intertwining deeper. Samir was shifting, revealing layers of himself she had never seen before. Together, they began to prepare a response to the oncoming storm, knowing the risks involved, but as they ventured deeper into the tempest, another figure lingered in the shadows, observing. The witness who had caught their earlier exchange discreetly shifted closer, eavesdropping, driven by curiosity but also by something else: opportunism. Janet couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, but she pressed forward. We have to act fast, she urged Samir and Eloise. Let us expose the truth before the lies consume you. Their resolve solidified, she felt an emerging power in their unity, a glimmer of a better future for Mia, perhaps even for all of them. But outside the mansion, the world was already turning. The whispers of scandal were spreading, drawing attention that would soon overwhelm them. Could they truly stand against the tide, or would the secrets they unearthed pull them under? As they gathered their composure, the unseen figure lingered, waiting for the right moment to strike. Changes were coming, ones that would test everything Janet had fought for. In the stillness that followed, uncertainty gripped her heart. Would their newfound alliance endure the scrutiny of the world outside? And as the reality of their peril set in, one question loomed larger than any other: was the power of their connection strong enough to withstand what lay ahead? Janet's heart raced as she grappled with the weight of their plan. The flickering candlelight danced around the room, casting shadows that mirrored the uncertainty in her mind. She locked eyes with Samir, his usually stoic demeanor now softened by an urgency she hadn't seen before. We need to gather evidence, she insisted. Make sure you're supported. Evidence, Samir echoed, as if the word were foreign to him. What do you mean? The people behind the rumors, they thrive on secrets. We can turn their whispers against them. Janet's voice was steady, guiding him through the fog of disarray. She could almost feel her resolve seeping into him, a warm blanket against his doubt. What if it makes things worse? He asked, trepidation glimmering in his eyes. Janet stepped closer, feeling the gravity of the moment. You've already lost so much by doing nothing. This is your chance to reclaim your narrative. You can't keep letting them write your story for you. Eloise, taking a deep breath, nodded in agreement. You've got people who care about you, Samir. And you've got a right to fight back. We can stand by your side. Samir's gaze flicked between the two women, uncertainty visibly melting away. You're right. I can't do this alone. But what do we do next? We'll dig up every last piece of information we can find, emails, records, anything that can point back to them, to their motives, Janet replied, feeling the momentum building. But we have to be careful. We can't tip them off. The moment was charged with purpose as they devised a battle plan. Janet felt an unexpected thrill coursing through her, a sense of agency and excitement she had long thought lost. This wasn't just about Samir, it was about standing up for what was right. They needed to uncover the truth, not because of some twisted game, but for the sake of the family lives caught in the crossfire. In the corner of the mansion, the shadowy figure listened intently, heart beating faster. Who were these people? They seemed destined for a collision course with destiny, but he was sure he could turn it to his advantage. As Janet and Samir shared stories of the past, their hopes, fears, and the dreams they carried like nameless burdens, she noticed something in him shift. The flicker of confidence that had been extinguished was reigniting. He was becoming someone willing to take a stand. But as they sank deeper into conversation, the door creaked open. A voice called from the hallway, slicing through their moment. "Samir. Are you in here?" It was Mia, her cheerful energy filling the room like sunlight. Panic surged through Janet. The last thing they needed was Mia to stumble upon their strategy. "Quick! We need to hide everything," she whispered urgently. The three of them scrambled, papers flying about as they stuffed sensitive materials into drawers, attempting to mask their undertakings. Just as they settled back, Mia peeked in, her innocent smile lighting up the room. "What is going on here?" she asked, her brow furrowing slightly in curiosity. "Just adult stuff, sweetie," Samir said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Are you sure?" she pressed, stepping closer. In that moment, Janet felt a knot tighten in her stomach. What if this innocent child became a target in all this? She glanced at Samir, and in his eyes, she saw a mirror of her own fears. "Everything will be okay, honey," Samir reassured, though his voice held a tremor of uncertainty. Janet stepped forward, giving Mia a tender smile. "Let us go play. We can make cookies together, okay?" As they led Mia away, the weight of the conversation loomed in the air behind them. The stakes were higher than ever. They could either rise from the ashes of lies or risk burning everything they cared about. Back in the quiet of the room, the shadow lingered, contemplating their every move. Time was running out, and they were about to find out just how ruthless the battle around them would become. Could they protect Mia and their newfound alliance from the hunger of those who thrived on chaos? The air felt thick with tension as they moved into the kitchen, the scent of warm vanilla and chocolate beginning to fill the space as Janet guided Mia to the counter. Samir lingered by the doorway, his thoughts racing faster than the beat of his heart. The child's innocence hung like a fragile glass ornament, precariously balanced in a turbulent world. "Can we add sprinkles?" Mia chirped, her eyes wide with excitement as she reached for a colorful jar on the shelf. "Of course, sweetie. Everything is better with sprinkles," Janet replied, forcing a smile. The warmth in her chest was a stark contrast to the cold knot of dread in her stomach. As she watched Mia pour a generous amount onto the cookies, she couldn't help but think, how long could they shield this child from the darkness encroaching upon their lives? "Samir!" Mia called, her voice filled with glee. "Come help." With a deep breath, he stepped forward, the weight of his responsibilities crashing down like an avalanche. They were taking a stand, but at what cost? Samir looked at Janet, catching her eye for a brief second, and in that sliver of time, she saw the fear mingling with a newfound determination. "Let us try to make these cookies the best they can be," he said, mustering enthusiasm for Mia's sake. And as they began to work together, laughter echoed off the kitchen walls, momentarily blanketing their worries. Yet, deep inside, Janet knew it wouldn't last. A sudden beep from Samir's phone shattered the moment, pulling him back to reality. He glanced at the screen, and his face fell. The message came from an unknown number. Curiosity made him hesitate, but dread warned him of the worst. The figure lurking in the shadows clearly wasn't finished with him yet. What's wrong? Janet asked softly, sensing his shift in demeanor. Just a message, Samir replied, his voice low. He pocketed the phone, trying to muster a smile for Mia, who was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around them. Samir, don't let them get to you, Janet pressed, her eyes narrowing with concern. Whatever they're trying to do, we have to stay focused. The evidence we needed could shift everything. Just then, Eloise entered the kitchen, her face painted with a look of urgency. We need to talk now. I found something, she said, her voice trembling slightly, though it was laced with determination. What is it? Samir asked, a sense of hope flickering through him, just like the candles illuminating their earlier conversation. It's about the rumors. Remember I mentioned the charity gala last month? I spoke to a couple of attendees, and there were whispers plans to further tarnish your name, Eloise revealed. Janet's heart raced. What kind of plans? They aim to publish a story. An exposé. They want to say you misappropriated funds. They've been gathering information, waiting for the right moment. They won't stop until they destroy you. Samir paled, the remnants of joy from baking cookies swiftly evaporating. But why? What's in it for them? Power. Control. If you go down, they believe they'll rise, Eloise replied, her voice steady. But we can't let that happen. We need to act quickly now. Mia, blissfully unaware, continued to sprinkle more on her cookies, giggling at the sight of flour dust swirling in the air. Samir, this isn't just about you anymore. This is about Mia, about us. We have to protect ourselves, Janet reminded him, her conviction lit like the candles that once flickered comfort. But where do we start? He asked, fear threading through his question. By getting what we need, Janet said, her voice rising with renewed steely resolve. We need to dig into their networks. Find connections that lead to whoever is behind these lies. Just then, another message pinged on Samir's phone, jolting them all into a suffocating silence. They all exchanged worried glances, the laughter of a moment ago fading into uncertainty. What if it's worse than we thought? He murmured, a chill creeping in. With everything at stake, they needed to launch into action. The battle lines were drawn, but the effectiveness of their alliance remained to be seen. As Janet turned back to Mia, an undeniable question loomed: would they be able to shield her and win the fight ahead, or was this just the beginning of a long, dark journey? Janet turned her focus back to Mia, who was now dramatically tasting the cookie dough, a look of sheer delight splattered across her face. The innocence of the moment tugged at Janet's heart. Here was this sweet child, wrapped in her world of sprinkles and flour, completely unaware of the tempest brewing just outside the kitchen. Don't eat too much of that, sweetheart, she said, trying to hold back a smile. You need to save some for the cookies. Mia giggled, flipping her hair, and for a moment, the kitchen was filled with warmth again, as if it was a different world. But an uneasy silence soon fell, broken only by Samir's continued glances at his phone. What do you think the message says? Eloise asked, eyeing Samir with both curiosity and concern. Do you want to read it? He shook his head, his fingers trembling slightly as he clenched his phone tighter. Maybe it's just a wrong number, or spam. Samir. Janet's voice was firm now. We can't afford to dismiss things. Not anymore. Whatever is happening out there won't go away if we ignore it. Forcing his gaze away from the screen, he turned to Janet, guilt etched across his brow. I'm trying to keep us safe, but he trailed off, searching for the right words. But we're in this together, she finished for him with a calmness she didn't fully feel. You're not alone in this fight. As Mia smeared chocolate chip cookies eagerly onto a baking tray, Janet's heart clenched tighter. She could almost hear the echoes of laughter that should have filled their house, the dreams that felt so close just a day ago slipping through her fingers like sand. Let us figure out who is behind this, Eloise urged. If we can gather what we need, expose their lies, we can turn the tide. It all starts with gathering information, but we need to be smart about it. What about connections? Samir asked suddenly, his eyes lighting up with a flicker of hope. I have contacts within the charity organization. If we could approach them, yes, but we must tread carefully, Eloise warned. They've likely infiltrated those networks. We need to be clever, understated. Mia, meanwhile, was humming a tune, a fantasy world swirling in her imagination. Janet felt her heart swell, but it was quickly overshadowed by fear. Protecting Mia had to come first. I'll reach out to some people, Samir said, already typing on his phone with newfound urgency. Maybe they'll help us find what we need to stop this. Janet watched him work, knowing it wouldn't be easy. The shadows were lurking still, watching and waiting. Whatever it takes, we'll face it together, she said, a fierce determination lighting up her voice. It felt like a promise, but she worried if they could truly carry it out. Suddenly, Mia stopped giggling. She looked up, her face serious. Are we in trouble? Like, bad trouble? Her innocent question sent a shiver down Janet's spine. No, sweetie, Janet said, kneeling down to meet her gaze. Sometimes things may seem scary, but we're going to be okay. We love you, and that matters most. Okay. Mia replied quietly, although her eyes held a flicker of doubt. As the cookies baked to a golden brown, the scent wafted through the kitchen sweet and warm, a perfect paradox to the frigid reality unfolding around them. Outside, dusk began to fall, casting long shadows across the floor. Each minute seemed to stretch, dragging the weight of uncertainty alongside it. Then Samir's phone buzzed again, breaking the silence. He hesitated, then opened the message. The color drained from his face as he read. Guys, this might be bad, he said breathlessly. What does it say? Janet asked, her heart racing as she understood they were teetering on the edge of something much bigger than themselves. Just something's coming. An article. It'll drop tomorrow. His voice cracked, and the gravity of the moment settled heavily on them all. As the clock ticked towards a moment that could change everything, Janet couldn't shake the feeling that the undercurrents were only just beginning to reveal themselves. What dreadful revelation hung in the balance? She held her breath, knowing this next move could determine their lives forever. Janet felt her heart stutter, a cold chill creeping down her spine as the words sank in. An article. Tomorrow would bring truths crashing down like a house of cards. She looked at Samir, his face pale, and felt panic clawing at her throat. What does it mean? Eloise asked, her eyes locked on Samir's expression. It could mean they know about us. About everything, he whispered. Mia, blissfully unaware, continued her cookie decorating, placing glittering sprinkles with an artist's precision. Janet forced a smile at her, trying to shield her from the brewing storm. But each sprinkle felt like a drop of anxiety pooling in her stomach. Samir, we need to stop this, Janet said, her voice firm. We have to be ready for whatever's coming. I know, he replied, running a hand through his hair. But how? If they're going public, what else might they have? We need to dig deeper. Eloise pulled her phone out. I'll call some contacts now. See if there's a way to get ahead of this or at least prepare for the fallout. As Eloise dialed, Janet thought of the family they'd built, the laughter, the love. Could it all tumble away because of a few careless whispers? Her heart raced as she recalled a time when they had received ominous calls, the kind that made everything in life feel too heavy. The ticking of the clock seemed deafening now, echoing the urgency inside her. Mia, Janet called softly, kneeling beside her. Can you help me with something? The little girl looked up, her eyes wide and innocent. Is it more cookie stuff? Sort of. I need a brave helper. Janet took a breath. We're going to create a plan to make sure our family stays safe. Can you help? Okay. Mia chirped, determination lighting her face. Great. Start thinking about your favorite superhero. Someone strong and smart. With a smile, Mia exclaimed, Wonder Woman. Yes. She can't be there, but we can pretend to be like her. We can be brave together. The playful game felt surreal against the seriousness weighing on Janet's heart. As they gathered supplies and ideas, Samir excused himself to take a call, leaving Janet to watch Mia string ingredients together as if designing armor for their imaginary mission. The smell of baking cookies filled the air, mingling with the tension in the room, but Janet couldn't quiet her thoughts. What if the article portrayed them in a light they could never escape from? What if it shattered their world? After a few minutes, Samir returned, looking more tense than before. That was the charity, he said, voice low. They want to meet. I told them we were having some family issues. They're concerned about the narrative. Do you think they'll help? Janet felt hope flicker, even as dread clung to her. The meeting isn't just about helping us. They want to protect their reputation, too. If we slip, it's not just us they're worried about. But we need them. Janet's voice rose involuntarily. What are we going to do? Mia is right, Samir said softly. We need a plan. In that moment, the realization settled in Janet's bones. This was more than cookies and games. This was about their lives, their future. They had to uncover whatever dark truth lay behind the impending article, come hell or high water. Integrating Mila's light spirit with grown-up urgency, they began to forge a plan, each word spoken heavy with determination, and as they rallied together, an unexpected silence fell over the house, punctuated only by the gentle chime of the oven timer. The future loomed, uncertain and vast. They were stepping into the unknown, but this was real life, full of suspense, and the stakes had never felt higher. Janet looked up just in time to see Mia pause, a stray sprinkle falling from her tiny fingers. Mom, what if bad things happen and we can't stop them? Every knee-jerk response crumbled in the face of such honest innocence. What could she say? With a lump in her throat, Janet simply replied, We'll find a way to fight back, and we'll do it together. Tomorrow would come with its challenges, but Janet clenched her jaw, steadied her heart, and vowed to protect her family no matter the costs. What awaited them in that article? What threads would unravel? Would they be strong enough to hold on to the lives they had built? The morning light spilled gently through the kitchen window, casting warm golden hues across the table where they had spent countless weekends baking. But today felt different. The air was thick with tension, almost suffocating, as Janet stood at the counter, nervously tapping her phone while waiting for Samir to return from his shower. She gripped her phone tighter, recalling the headlines she had glimpsed on social media. They were everywhere, and the article had not even been printed yet. Revealed, Black Housekeeper's inspiring cry saves millionaire Arab from life-changing tragedy. What would people think? What would Mia think? Mia. Janet's voice cut through the silence, her heart racing. What do you want for breakfast? Pancakes. Mia called from the living room, dragging her favorite stuffed animal into the kitchen. That playful sound of innocence momentarily softened the edges of Janet's worry. Okay, pancakes it is. Janet tossed her phone aside and turned to the task at hand, clattering dishes to keep herself busy. She flipped the skillet on the stove, trying to shake off the unease that clung like a cold sweat. As she blended flour and eggs, her thoughts spiraled back to the charity meeting. What would they say? The way Samir had described them concerned, wanting to protect their image had troubled her. Were they playing politics with her family's life? Mom? Mia's voice again broke through Janet's spiraling thoughts. She looked over to see her daughter poking her head around the corner, her big brown eyes filled with concern. You okay? Janet forced a smile, praying it reached her eyes. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a bit tired, I guess. Can you help me set the table? Okay. Mia nodded eagerly, jumping into action, her little feet pattering against the floor like a hopeful drumbeat. As they worked together, a fleeting moment of normalcy washed over Janet like a wave. The sound of batter sizzling on the skillet, Mia's occasional giggle, the smell of vanilla wafting through the air all felt comforting, yet there was a storm brewing above them, a dark shadow that could not be ignored. Samir entered the kitchen, rubbing a towel over his damp hair. He looked in her eyes, and in that brief moment, Janet recognized the same fear reflected back at her. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice soft but edged with urgency. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, maintaining a brave front even as dread gnawed at her insides. "We'll go in, show them we're united. Together." With Mia happily munching on a slice of pancake, Samir took her hand. "You're amazing, you know that? I can't let this article define who we are. Or what we built," Janet added, squeezing his fingers. "Our family matters more than what they say." The doorbell's chime suddenly echoed throughout the house like an alarm bell, snapping their moment of solace. They exchanged a glance filled with trepidation and fortitude. It was like someone had rung a warning, and they both knew this was it. Mia climbed down from her chair, her small hand reaching up to grip Janet's. "Are we gonna be okay, Mom?" Kneeling down to meet her gaze, Janet felt a crack in her bravery. "We will do everything we can to be okay. Just remember, no matter what happens, we're a team." They moved toward the door, each step heavier than the last. With one last glance at her daughter, who trusted her implicitly, Janet opened the door to face whatever awaited them on the other side. As the representatives from the charity stepped into their home, the tension crackled in the air like electricity. Would they be a shield or a sword? The moment of truth was upon them, and as Janet steeled her heart, she heard the first words spoken. "We need to talk about the article and how it could impact all of us. What hidden truths lay ahead, threatening to shake their family's foundation? Would they emerge stronger or fractured by the revelations?" The representatives from the charity stepped inside, their presence looming like dark clouds. Janet felt the temperature drop, anxiety crawling up her spine. There were two of them, a tall, impeccably dressed woman with sharp features and a gentle-faced man who seemed out of place amidst their tension. He offered a reassuring smile, but Janet couldn't find comfort in it. "Thank you for having us, Janet," the woman began, her voice smooth as silk yet edged with authority. "We understand this is a challenging time for your family." "Challenging? That's one way to put it," Samir replied, clenching Janet's hand tighter. They stood side by side, a united front against a storm they weren't sure they could weather. The woman nodded, her gaze piercing through them. "We appreciate your support for our charity, but we can't ignore the implications of today's headlines. Our image is directly linked with yours now, and we want to find a way to address the potential fallout." Janet's heart raced. She could hear the unspoken words hanging in the air. This was more about saving their reputation than understanding their family. "You mean to protect yourselves," she muttered, unable to mask her rising frustration. The gentle-faced man interjected, "That's not our intention, Janet. But the story is drawing considerable attention. We just need to make sure we're all on the same page." "What does that even mean?" Janet shot back. Mia was nestled behind her, clutching tightly to her mother's leg, sensing the tension but not fully grasping the gravity of the situation. "Children are involved, and their well-being is our priority," the woman continued, a hint of impatience creeping into her tone. "The way we come out of this is critical not just for you, but for all of us." "Yora sounds very impersonal," Samir replied, his voice steady yet simmering beneath his calm demeanor. Janet admired his restraint. He was always the voice of reason. But now, she wanted to scream. Mia squeezed her mother's leg, her wide eyes flipping back and forth between the adults as if watching a tennis match. Janet knelt beside her, brushing a sweaty curl from the girl's forehead. "You don't need to worry, love," she said, even though her heart raced with fear. "What if they're mean?" Mia whispered, glancing towards the strangers who felt anything but friendly. The innocence in her voice sliced through Janet's heart. "No one is going to be mean, sweetheart. we're all just talking. But she could hear the tremor in her own words, betraying her attempts at comfort. The representatives exchanged glances, and the woman continued, we could mitigate potential damage by issuing a joint statement, something that highlights your perspectives in a positive light. It's meant to show unity. It will help both your family and the charity's reputation. Are we some kind of project? Samir snapped, frustration boiling over. A PR stunt for your convenience? Yes. No, well, sort of. The woman's tone shifted, revealing the tension that remained tightly wound inside her. She took a breath, steadying herself. But it's what's necessary in these situations. We're facing the fallout together. Janet felt something shift, like a pebble being tossed into a still pond, rippling outward. But what about us? What about our story? Your story matters, but it must align with ours if we want it to survive this chaos, she replied, unwavering. Janet and Samir exchanged an intense look, a mixture of unease and determination. They knew they had to navigate this carefully, but where was the line between self-preservation and authentic representation? What did they lose if they played along? Mia shifted uneasily, sensing the change in the room. Mom, are we okay? The question hung in the air, bombarding Janet with overwhelming uncertainty. She locked eyes with Samir again, and he nodded ever so slightly, as if fueled by resolve. The doorbell rang again, interrupting their charged atmosphere. They turned toward the sound, curiosity crackling like static. Who else could it be? A sense of trepidation washed over Janet. Would it be more help? Or more trouble? As she approached the door, she took a breath, preparing herself for whatever lay on the other side. When she opened it, she was met with a face that brought back memories, a childhood friend, one she hadn't seen in years. How would her presence shift the tension already boiling within? Hey, Janet, we need to talk. What could she possibly want, and how would this alter their already precarious situation? Janet stood in the doorway, her breath catching in her throat. The years had etched lines around Sarah's eyes, but the warmth of their friendship still flickered behind them. This was the last person Janet expected to see today, and yet here she was, a ghost of the past dressed in the chaos of the present. Sarah? Janet breathed, disbelief mingling with shock. What are you doing here? Sarah stepped inside, her presence filling the room with a different energy. I heard about everything, the news, the charity, your family. She glanced behind Janet, catching sight of Samir and Mia, their faces a blend of curiosity and concern. I needed to check on you. Now's not a great time, Samir said, with a hint of skepticism. He tightened his grip on Janet's hand, shield-like. I know it looks bad, Sarah continued, her voice low and soothing, but I may have some ideas that can help both of you. Just hear me out. Janet exchanged a wary look with Samir. It was a moment loaded with unspoken questions and apprehensions. Okay, Janet said hesitantly, but we're in the middle of something. Sarah eased herself onto the edge of the couch, her posture relaxed yet intent. I get that. But trust me, I have a perspective that might surprise you. Mia slowly emerged from behind Janet, inching toward Sarah, curiosity driving her. Are you a superhero? She asked, wide-eyed. The question pulled at Janet's heartstrings, the innocence of it, juxtaposed against their grim reality. Sarah chuckled softly, then replied, not quite, but the best kind of help often comes from surprising places. Janet sat down opposite her friend, the air between them filled with a sense of unearthing buried memories. What do you mean? Look, I've followed your story. It's being told in a way that doesn't reflect you or your family's truth. The headlines are harsh. People need to understand the real story, not just the scandal. Easier said than done, Samir said, frustration creeping back into his voice. Everyone has a narrative, including them. He indicated the charity representative still lingering in the room. I know that. Sarah's eyes sparked with determination. But we can create a new narrative, one that puts your family at the center. It's about resilience, about how love and community can pull people through hard times. Janet felt a flicker of hope. Could they reshape the story after all? How do we do that? I have connections, Sarah said, with a determined gleam. We can start by holding a gathering, maybe a community event. Get everyone talking. Real stories, real people, and how you've been exactly what this city needs right now. Mia grinned at the thought of a gathering, bouncing lightly on her heels. Like a party? Yes, Mia, a party. Sarah laughed, the sound infectious and brightening the dim mood that had starkly settled over them. Samir considered this, his brows furrowing in thought. The very idea seemed risky yet stirring. But what about the charity? They'd never go for it, right? They don't have to. Sarah's gaze was fierce. This is about your truth, not theirs. Your family's strength can shine without their involvement. Janet felt a rush of conflicting emotions, anxiety and elation intertwined. The idea began to bloom like a fragile flower pushing up through cracks in concrete. You think people would come? I know they would, Sarah replied earnestly. People want to show support. They just need an invitation, a reason to lift each other up. And if you share your story, unfiltered, it could change everything. The weight in the room lifted slightly, the air thick with potential and promise. Janet could see it, the community coming together, her family's true story finally told. But in the pit of her stomach, doubt still lingered. What if it doesn't work? She whispered, the fear creeping back in. Then we try again. Sarah's answer was firm. The only way we truly fail is to do nothing. As Janet contemplated her friend's words, the path ahead seemed as daunting as it was hopeful. Could this be the step they needed to reclaim their narrative? Could they fight against the tide of negativity crashing down on them? Before she could respond, the charity representative cleared her throat, breaking the quiet tension. It seems we're getting ahead of ourselves, but perhaps there's a way to. But Janet wasn't listening anymore. Her heart raced with a newfound possibility. She wanted to believe, to fight for her family's story, and yet, what if the charity wouldn't remain passive in the aftermath? What if they retaliated as she began to step away from their carefully scripted path? The sun dipped low in the sky, shadows lengthening across the Alhassan mansion as a sense of urgency built in the atmosphere. Janet's heart raced, teetering on a fine line between fear and hope. The conversation with Sarah had ignited a fire within her, a flicker of courage that hadn't been there before. She looked at Samir, whose brow was furrowed with concern, and at Mia, blissfully unaware of the chaos surrounding them. Okay, Janet said, her voice steady but laced with anxiety. Let us do this. We'll make our story the one that everyone hears. But we need a concrete plan. Samir nodded in agreement, determination visibly rising as he straightened his posture. What do you need from me? He asked, his gaze intense, ready to fight for what was right. Sarah grinned, bursting with enthusiasm. Start by reaching out to everyone you know. Friends, family, colleagues. We'll need their support to create buzz about the gathering. It's not just a party, it's a movement, she emphasized, eyes shining with conviction. As the plan began to take shape, Janet felt a refreshing sense of clarity. The sound of Mia laughing, earlier just a faint hum beneath the tension, now rang out vibrantly, a reminder of why they were fighting. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path before them was fraught with challenges, but they would face those together. Let us do this for you too, Mia, Janet said softly, kneeling to meet her daughter's eye level. We want to create a world where you can dream big, without fear. Can I have sprinkles at the party? Mia's infectious grin filled Janet with warmth, and she chuckled, hugging her tight. Absolutely, sweetie. The best kind of party has sprinkles. Sarah shifted, her voice serious again. We have to be prepared for backlash. The charity won't take kindly to us stepping away from their narrative. I'm not afraid anymore. Samir's voice was low but full of strength. Today is the beginning of reclaiming our story. There was a power in his tone that pulled Janet closer, as if grounding her. As plans rapidly progressed, they set a date at the community center nearby. Janet struck the proverbial iron while it was hot, speaking with neighbors and friends, igniting whispers of anticipation. Everyone was eager to hear their side, to support them through this storm despite the scandal brewing on social media, but not everyone welcomed their initiative with open arms. The charity's representatives were quick to respond, glancing daggers and cloaked threats weaving through their words. "This isn't just about you," the woman had snapped during a tense follow-up meeting. "You need to think of the consequences, not just the headlines." "Consequences of what?" Janet shot back, refusing to back down. "Of being honest? Of embracing who we truly are? You can't dictate our narrative anymore." The representatives scoffed at their resolve but left with a promise to consider their plans. Janet could feel their power buckling under the force of unity that was brewing. Finally, the day of the gathering arrived. The community center buzzed with energy, filled with friendly faces and open arms. Janet and Samir stood at the entrance, welcoming everyone like they were family. Mia dashed between guests, laughter spilling from her like sunlight, her innocence a beacon of hope amongst the chaos. "Look at this place." Samir marveled, his eyes twinkling with disbelief. "It's beautiful," Janet whispered, her heart swelling at the sight. "This is home." As they stepped to the front of the crowd, a hush fell over the thrumming energy. Janet took a deep breath, her pulse quickening. It was time. "What you've heard, what you think you know, it's just a fragment. A story twisted and turned into something ugly," she began. "But today, we're here to share the truth. The real truth." With each word, Janet spoke her heart, revealing their struggles and hopes, the love they cultivated amidst adversity. She could see the engagement in her neighbors' faces, the supportive nods, tears glistening in their eyes. Samir stepped forward, his voice trembling yet steady. "I was lost in fear. Consumed by perception. But I've learned that our legacy isn't built on money or fame. It's built on love, on standing together." And in that moment, a wave of genuine connection washed over the crowd. Janet felt the warmth of familial embrace, reminding her that they were not alone in this fight. As the last of the speeches were made, the room erupted in applause, shattering the weight of silence. Support flooded in, and people started sharing their own stories of resilience, of love against the odds. Later that night, as the final guests wandered home, Janet and Samir collapsed onto the couch, the sparkle of Mia still echoing in the halls. Tears of joy slipped down Janet's cheeks as she turned to Samir. "We did it." "Yes," he said, engulfing her in a warm embrace. "And this is just the beginning." In the depths of their hearts, they both felt an indomitable strength that was ready to withstand any future storm, knowing they had woven their own truth into the fabric of the community. Their story mattered, and together, they would rise, brighter than any chandelier. As the moon bathed the mansion in silver light, the shadows of the past began to recede, revealing the path forward, a path rooted in love, unity, and unwavering spirit. Now is the moment for you to step into the next chapter. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let us keep spreading love and resilience together.